Welcome to this webinar on enhancing your drawing sheets in advanced steel. My name is Alec Giles. I'm a structures consultant at Graytec and I'm also an Autodesk Expert Elite. I originally trained as a mechanical design engineer around 30 years ago and I was a member of the Institution of Engineering Designers until 2010. I spent around 10 years designing machinery, primarily for the steel and aluminium industries, big heavy machinery. And then I moved sideways to become the CAD manager at the company I was in. So I was providing training and support for around 200 users of AutoCAD, AutoCAD Mechanical, Inventor and Solid Edge. But then in 2010 I moved to Graitec, and since then I've focused 100% solely on advanced steel, not touching any other software, totally dedicated to the one product. So overall I have around 20 years experience in support, consultancy and training on CAD software. Why should you choose Graitec to be your software partner? Well, we believe we're unique in being able to offer products and services across the entire life cycle of your products, and we split them into 4 areas. First of all, you have Graitec Create, which is creating your designs using BIM methodologies and software in Autodesk products. But those Autodesk products are enhanced with Graitec Power Packs, which add extra tools to them to make you more efficient. And we have Power Packs for advanced steel, for Revit, for Inventor and for Volt. Once you've got your basic design, you move into Graitec Simulate. You need to simulate your product and make sure it's going to work in the real world. So you can use market-leading, state-of-the-art technology from Graitec to do that analysis for you. Once you've got your finished design, you've checked it all out, it's going to work, you need to manufacture it. So you get to Graitec Fabricate, where we take your design and we manage your entire workshop for you to bring that design to reality. Whether it's sorting the NC files, translating NC files and sending them to the right machine tools, or whether it's scheduling and managing your human resources and your welders and people like that to know which task and which order to create things in. Everything's managed for you. And finally, all of that lot creates an awful lot of data and an awful lot of files. So you get Graitec Manage, where we have facilities there to manage all of your company's work in progress data and protect your IP, make sure everybody's working on the latest versions and so on, all the way up to the point where it leaves your company and gets passed on to somebody else in an external data environment. Graitec regularly produce lots and lots of webinars, several every month, at least one a month for advanced steel, probably 2. And they're all recorded and they're all stored and listed on our content center. If you go to the content center and you click on the advanced steel one, you'll find over 50 webinars for advanced steel, anywhere from half an hour to an hour long. So that's over 40 hours of training on videos you can watch there on demand. But it's not just about webinars. As I say, we've got over 50 webinars on the content center just for advanced steel. But we also do blogs about advanced steel, where we're regularly publishing small bite-sized chunks which have got various hints and tips and tricks and frequently asked questions, good ideas, methodologies and so on in there. They're all small bite-sized chunks, but there's a lot of good information if you go to the blogs site. So go to Graitec UK and then go to blogs and advanced steel. We also do conferences and user days. So we did a BIM Up conference in 2019 and this year in 2020. And we had a user day a few months ago. If you missed any of that and you're a Graitec customer, then you're entitled to an account of Graitec Advantage. And if you log into Graitec Advantage, then you'll be able to watch videos from all of those BIM Up conferences and our user day and learn lots of tips and tricks there. There's at least 20 hours worth of video on advanced steel among that lot. So these words in blue, these are links, and if you download the handout from the GoToWebinar panel on the right hand side of your screen, there's a handout panel. Download the handout, all these links will be live and active for you. Finally, if you're a supported customer, you have an advanced steel support contract with us, especially in the UK, then you are entitled to the Graitec Power Pack for advanced steel. This adds a lot of extra bells and whistles, nice to have functionality that Autodesk aren't adding into the software, so Graitec are adding it. We know lots and lots about the software. We've added these extra functions for the efficiency of our users, and it comes without any further charge to you if you're already on a support contract with us. If you're not in the UK, double check with your local office of Graitec to see what you're entitled to. But if you haven't already got the power pack, make sure you get hold of it. So coming on to today's webinar then, what are we looking at? Well, how to edit your blank drawing sheets in Advanced Steel so that the appearance of your drawings and so on are much nicer. We're going to talk about what are prototypes and where do you find them, how to edit the borders and the title blocks within them, how the drawing is laid out, how to set where the drawing is put and the views, how you can possibly reserve an area if you have a big block of notes and so on. You need to make sure the drawing doesn't go over them, and other things in the prototypes you need to look at or consider as well to enhance the appearance. And a common question is project-specific drawing sheets, so different sheets for different projects, maybe with the customer logos on and so on. How do you do that easily? So the first question is prototypes. What? Huh? Well, when it creates a drawing, Advanced Steel copies a ready-made blank drawing sheet, and it copies that into the project folder and puts the new drawing inside that new drawing sheet. So these blank drawing sheets that already have the borders and title blocks and everything on them, these are what we call prototypes. Prototypes get many different aspects in there, and they control a lot about the appearance of your drawing. So most obvious is the drawing border and the title block. They're already drawn inside the prototype. But you also have things like the dimension styles that are used. So do you use arrowheads, tick marks, or what? How to print that drawing, the default print settings, and the bills of materials on the drawing and the revision table on the drawing and so on. They all come with part of the prototype. So there are lots and lots of different prototypes for each possible type of drawing you can create. So for example, in the UK build you have various types of drawing. You can have assembly drawings with one per sheet. Those are all called UK assembly. Then you have assembly drawings where you can have lots per sheet. They're all called UK assembly multi. Then you have some foundation drawings that have anchor notes about the resin anchors and so on in the corner. They're called UK found, or general GA drawings called UK GA. Then you have single part drawings with one per sheet, that's UK single, or a single part drawing where you could have lots on one sheet, which is UK single multi. So lots of different categories, 6 categories there. And for each of those categories, you have the 5 possible drawing sheet sizes from A4 to A0. And even more, apart from GA, so for parts and assemblies, you also have those sheets in every sheet size with or without bills of materials. So there's about 10 in each of those categories. That makes over 50 prototypes in total. If you're going to edit and customize the entire set, which really you ought to, if you're going to be thorough, you should do the whole set. There's 50 of them in the system. Where do you find these prototypes if you want to customize or edit them? Well, they're stored in this path here. You should all get familiar with the path to what we call the data folder. And that is C, Program Data, Autodesk, Advanced Steel, whatever year. You could stop there, but since we're always using the UK version, it'll be GBR. If you're using another version, it'll be a different initials. That is the data folder. That stores your entire setup for everything about Advanced Steel. The prototypes are within that folder. They're a bit deeper down. They're also then into shared support prototypes. Obviously, you need to back up that folder before you start editing anything, just in case anything goes wrong. Even if you think you're an expert like we do, still back it all up. It's easy to make a slip and to fumble or to get distracted or your machine crashes or whatever. So just keep that back up in case anything goes wrong. You don't have to remember that full path, although it's a good thing to learn the basic path, because there's actually a command on the output ribbon in that document manager panel which just says edit prototypes. If you click on that, it's basically a file open command, but it knows where to find the prototypes and goes straight there. So let's take a look then at editing the prototypes. Rule number 1. This is important. Do not change the name of anything. If you want it to work without extensively customizing other parts of the system, do not rename anything. The file name has to stay the same, so you're overwriting the master files. That's why you keep a backup of the originals before you edit them. You can't change the names of the blocks. You can't change the names of the dimension styles. You can't just copy something in from another file that's got a different name. It has to be exactly as structured. when it's given to you with exactly the same names, or it just won't be recognized by Advanced Steel. Absolutely critical. So change the name of anything and it just simply won't work. So let's have a look then at what's in the file. If I go to my Advanced Steel, so it's output ribbon, document manager panel. Here we go, edit prototypes here. Click on that. It knows where to find them. Choose the one you want to edit. I'm going to go with A3 bomb. Should have mentioned also on those types, there's actually on the UK build these ones with 3 initials, BWI, BAN, AYR. These are for cold rolled suppliers. Don't touch any of them because they already have the suppliers' logos on and so on. You shouldn't be editing any of them. We just need to edit the ones tailored for the UK use. So I'm going to use the UK bomb, UK assembly A3 bomb. Open that. And now I'm in the prototype ready to edit it. So the first and most obvious thing in the prototype you may want to edit is the drawing border. So the drawing border is a block, must be a block, called Hypersteel Page Frame. So you don't really need to remember the name, you just don't ever change it when you're editing the block. So to edit the block, you can select the existing border, right click and choose Block Editor. That brings you into a window that has just that block for the border showing, nothing else, no matter what else was on the drawing. You can put any geometry and any notes, anything you like in that block. That's fine. Not a problem. So I've drawn here, you got on the picture on the right, a bit of a fancier version of the border. On all the ones supplied out of the box, it's just a blue rectangle, but I've put in a bit more going on there, double edge, and I've put in curved at corners, and I've moved my notes up to the top. I'm bringing the notes into the border. I think it's a good idea to include all your general notes inside the drawing border. And I'm putting on here a weld sticker. It's quite a common request to have, we need a sticker that says who welded it, what date it was welded, who has inspected it, and other bits and pieces. So we can include those as attributes inside the border title block. Oh, it's a border block, not a title block. The overall shape should be rectangular. I can't imagine why you'd want anything else, but don't try and be fancy. Don't try and work around the title block or anything like that. Just keep the border as a simple rectangle. Even if what you draw is not a rectangle, Advanced Steel will treat it as a smallest rectangle that includes everything you drew. So that needs to be the area you're talking about. You're drawing this at 1:1. There's no scaling involved. It's a 1:1 outline of your border, and it should obviously match the sheet size you're intending. So if it was, and the ISO standard says you should have a 10mm margin around within the sheet size. Different printers have different printable margins, but ISO standard says use a 10mm all round to try and cover that. So an A1 sheet is 841 by 594 millimeters. So I would make my A1 border 821 by 574. 10mm all round, so 20mm smaller overall. The bottom left corner, where you can see the XY is showing on my picture, should be at 00 inside the block, and then the block itself should be inserted at 00 in the final prototype. So if I have a quick look at that, here's my frame here. So I can select that existing border, right click, block editor. Here we go. And I could draw anything I like in here now if I wanted to. So I could easily go, just to make it decorative. Where's nearest? There it is, nearest. Obviously I'm just throwing things together randomly here. I've put the notes in down the corner there, built them into the border block. They're not part of the border on the build you get. That's something I've already done on my prototypes. So there you go, I've put some nice extra lines on, fiddle around as much as I like, and then when I'm done, close block editor, save the changes, and there you go. It's still at 00. This corner here is 00 in the universe. This is the border, and this is what I would use. So easy to edit the border as you wish. The title block is the next biggest or the most obvious thing to want to edit. There's quite a lot going on in the title block. So again, it's an AutoCAD block. and this time it's called Hypersteel Page Header. Again, you can select the block, right click and choose block editor, so you can go in and edit it and play about with it as you wish. And then once again, you can include any geometry you wish, so you can draw any circles, draw any shaped boxes and bits and pieces in there. I've made this one here, I've made it taller and narrower instead of wide and flat. But again, the overall shape should be a rectangle. If I had some extra notes sticking out here, it's not ideal to have different heights, because again, Advanced Steel will treat it like it's a rectangle, the smallest rectangle that can include everything within the block. So you might as well fill up that rectangle and lay things out in a nice rectangle rather than having sort of different levels of different bits. Again, always keeping everything at 1:1. There's no need to scale anything going on here. This time you usually have 0, 0 in the bottom right of your title block, so it will be this point. And then that's inserted at the bottom right corner of your drawing border. So it's not quite on the very corner, it's on the inner line for my border here. Within that title block, there's some special stuff going on you have to be aware of, which is basic AutoCAD stuff. Hopefully you would be able to learn it. Particularly the text. So when you go into Block Editor, you see all this green text has appeared. Well, the chat wasn't there a second ago. Well, these are called attributes. They're standard AutoCAD functionality. And attributes are special bits of text that can only be used inside blocks. And the text height, the position, the color, and everything else is already set for you. We simply don't know what it's going to say each time the block is used. Well, if you double click on one of these, you'd find it's got three main properties. It's got a tag, a prompt, and a default value. The prompt and the default value are used when you fill them in later on, so I'll show you that in a second. But the critical property is the tag. If you want Advanced Steel to fill in the property for you, like I want it to fill in the project title, I want it to fill in the client and the model role and who drew it and the drawing number and so on, then you have to, the tag has to be a token selected from a predefined list. And the easiest way to find that list is to press F1 and then search for title block tokens, and you get a long list here of the different tokens you can use within your title blocks. And if it use one of those, Advanced Steel will find it within that block and then it will fill it in with values for you. The prompt property can say anything you like. The default property should be blank if you want Advanced Steel to fill it in. Advanced Steel gets a bit confused if it's not already blank. If you put in extra attributes that Advanced Steel doesn't recognize, it will leave it blank all the time. It won't touch it. You can fill in whatever you want and it will stay as whatever you put. So in our GA drawings, for example, we have attributes called drawing title 1, drawing title 2, and Advanced Steel doesn't fill them in. You can fill those in with extra titles on your GAs like elevations for planning purposes, or concept for estimating only, or whatever you might put in. Let's have a quick look at that. So once again, we're going to our prototype. Here's the title block. So I'll just select that, right click, block editor, and bing, here we go, all those bits of green text everywhere. So we can start playing with these are the special attributes, and if I double click on one of them, you can see the three properties here. Project is the token, project there is the prompt for the dialog box, and default value there. If I wanted to put in new ones, I would need to know what tokens I can use. So if I just press F1, you get the general Advanced Steel help, and search for title block tokens. The first one there, title block token list. Here we go. I can use any of these names on the left, and I'll get that property filled in. These ones are interesting, approval status and so on. I'll show you those later on. If you have tokens you haven't recognized because you want them to be filled in yourself, if you're not already familiar, then on a title block, you can double click on it and you get a dialog box up like this. So I could find the property I wanted to fill in, project number, go in there, C1234, and you can see it's filled in already for me in the title block. detailer. Not me. Let's fill that in for you. So you can fill those in. You wouldn't have them pre-filled if you want Advanced Steel to touch them. Okay. A really important note with attributes though. If you edit the attributes like I just showed you, change the token, maybe you want more fields, so you copy an existing attribute and move it, and you change the token, or you shuffle them around because you've changed the shape of your title block, even if you only have the same ones. Then AutoCAD behaves a little bit strangely, because you can save the changes to the block when you come out of the block editor, but none of those changes you made will have any effect on the prototype at all, unless you remember to synchronize your attributes. And this is something that people don't really understand and don't realize. Everybody I know always explodes the block, purges the file, creates a new block, and then has to go through all getting everything just right again. But you can edit them just doing the block editor like I've shown you, as long as you remember to synchronize the attributes. And that means you have to type in this command @sync, ATTSYNC. It'll prompt you, do you want to select the block? And you say yes, select, or press return in other words, or the default. Then you actually pick your title block, and then it says, do you want to update it? You say yes, and then it's done. Not a lot of people seem to know this command, but it works perfectly well as long as you remember to do it. Once you've done that command, your attributes inside the block will be synchronized, so everything will be in the new positions with the new tokens and so on, and everything will work correctly. But that's really important. Another really obvious thing, a really important thing you need to change with it, usually within your title block, is the logo. If nothing else, when you first get Advanced Steel and you're using it for your own company, we expect you to change the logo to your own company's logo. You don't want the Autodesk logo everywhere. In the UK, this is slightly different to the rest of the world. In the UK, we've made the logo, the Autodesk logo, a block within a block. So even inside the title block, the Autodesk logo is another block inside it. And that helps you a lot. Makes it far easier to replace. Because all you have to do is draw the logo once and you can update the blocks really quickly. So the block is called logo, and as always, you can't change anything. You must keep it called logo. It's actually in the folder one up from prototypes, so it's in the support folder where we went to before, but it's one above prototypes, and it's just called logo DWG. Copy that and save it somewhere else, so you're not overwriting the original, just in case. Again, always keep the originals. So you're not going to overwrite the original, you copy this and put it somewhere else. It must keep the same name. Can't call it my logo or something. And then inside the new logo, you can do anything you like. The blue rectangle, if you're keeping with the existing title blocks and you're only changing the logo, the blue rectangle is the limit of the size you can use. So delete everything inside the blue rectangle and draw your own new logo inside the blue rectangle. Put in whatever text and whatever you want in there. Please do not use images. Some people do, and some people think they get away with it. But images have two key problems. When you insert an image into a AutoCAD DWG, it does not embed that file into the DWG. It's really, really hard to make it do that. What it usually does is link to the file on disk. So when you open your drawings, it knows where to find that logo on disk. But when I open your drawing, or your workshop opens a drawing, they haven't got the logo in the same path on their disk. So it can't find it, and you end up with an empty rectangle instead of a logo. In fact, you'll have an empty rectangle with the path for the logo written across the bottom, so just a bit of a mess and no logo. Or if you are lucky enough to find the logo, then that's just a mass of dots of different colours. But all dots, whether they're white, green, pink, blue, yellow, orange, or red, are ink. And 99% of the time we print black and white. So if a dot is ink, it doesn't matter what colour it is on screen, it's going to be black on paper, so you end up with a solid black rectangle if you're not careful. So images are risky. Sometimes you get away with it, sometimes you don't. I would highly recommend you replace any images with AutoCAD objects. So you can insert the image, trace over it with polylines, use solid hatches to fill in areas, then detach the logo. Don't just delete it, you have to go into XREFs and detach it, because it will still be linking and it will come up with an error every time you open a drawing. I can't find the logo, I can't find the logo. So make sure you use the detach option inside the XREF palette. But then you can draw your new logo, you can put in whatever text you want to give you your new logo and ID. But make sure it's all just plain AutoCAD elements. And then, once you've got that one new logo drawn, you can take as long as you like lovingly creating your new logo. To replace on all the prototypes is really quite easy. For each individual prototype, you have to do a simple process. Open the prototype, use the classic insert command. So if you're on 2021, you have to type in classic insert. I think it was 21, it changed, it might have been 20. The new version of the insert command doesn't work the same, it's just horrible. Use the browse button, highlighted in yellow in the picture, to find your new logo on disk. I know it's already in the list, but you must find the one on disk using browse. Check the insertion point is ticked, saying specify on screen, and make sure explode is not ticked. It remembers the previous settings, so you don't have to check this every time. Then you click OK, and it will prompt you, do you want to redefine the block? There you go, the logo is already defined, do you want to redefine the block? Yes, that's the whole point. So you click on redefine block. And as soon as you click on redefine block, it will already change in your title block. So there's no need to actually finish placing the new block anywhere. You can hit escape on the keyboard. And it's already updated the title block. And then you save and close your prototype. So it's open, insert, redefine, save, cancel, save, and do that. You can do that step, one command, in sort of 30 seconds per file or less. So you can belt through your 50 files in no time if that's all you want to change. If you're not using the UK prototypes, then I'm afraid you'll have to do that a bit of a harder way, because it won't be a block within a block. So what you'll need to do is probably copy and paste the content of that logo into the title block. So work out the maximum size, draw your logo in there, copy it to the clipboard, then in each new file you have to go into the block editor, delete the old stuff, paste the new stuff, and you save it in the new file, go into the title block, delete the old stuff, paste the new stuff, save, come out. That'll be the fastest way. I can see a question's been raised. I'll look at the questions at the end. So you repeat that process for every prototype, and you can belt through them pretty quickly. Okay. So just to reiterate that. So this is my title block. I'll go in there, block editor. You can see here that the block is a block within there. So I won't change it here. I think I've got the one on disk, so I'll just go to the insert, I'll browse. I'm trying to think where I put it now. There's my new logo. Open, specify on screen, don't explode it. Okay. Do you want to redefine the block? Yes, redefine block. Instantly it's changed, don't have to do anything else. Hit escape. Save and close, next file. So it's pretty rapid to do that. Another area in the title block, in the prototype, not the title block, is the revision table. The revision table on your drawing is a special advanced steel object. And like any advanced steel object, you can double click it to edit it. You can see in the dialog box you have 5 possible columns, on which we're only using 4 on the original UK prototypes. The Rev Details column puts a description of the changes in that particular drawing. So the overall description is probably applying to 20 or 30 drawings, like work order 95 or something like that. But the Rev Details will tell you what changed on this particular drawing. It has about 10 or 12 fixed bits of text you can use, like processing changed or quantity changed or whatever. And that will fill that in with the part numbers. So processing changed means the holes or the notches have changed. You can add that column in if you want to. There are 4 possible layouts for the revision table. 2 go from top down and 2 go from the bottom up. And then you can have any number of lines. So there's one of each has any number of lines, or there's one of each that has a fixed number of lines. Out of the box, they all have one, they're all fixed on 1 line. And you can see in my picture here, I've changed this to fixed on 3 lines, so it's showing 3 empty lines. But even if I had 12 revisions, it would just show the last 3. You have pages there to format the text in the headings and the rows, but you can't change what the headings say. So I can't say approved by, I can't say revision note or anything like that. I've got to just live with what's there. There is a tick box here, delete during prototype change. It's a good idea to tick that, although changing the prototype after the drawing's created is not ideal. If you have to do it now and then, you want this to be deleted and replaced with a new one from the new prototype, or you end up with 2 or 3 on there. So make sure that's ticked. And the bills of material on the prototype, similar again. They are special advanced steel objects. There's 2 on any of the prototypes that say BOM. At the moment there's 2. There's a lots list in the top right and a parts list in the bottom left. You only get a fairly small range of templates provided with advanced steel. There's about 10, of which 4 are used and the others aren't really used. But they can be customized. If you want to attempt this is not something many people attempt, but it's not too difficult. It's fairly straightforward if you know some basic AutoCAD things. Again, go into the system help by pressing F1, search for BOM templates, and you'll get a description, an FAQ that comes up. That's how to do the changing. Or if you just want to use an existing one, well, we assume within the prototype itself you don't edit anything. So to just change that, you can double click on it as always. Or if you want to put in a brand new one, you go to the Labels and Dimensions ribbon, first panel with management, and then you can say Insert Drawing List to put an extra one in there. Whenever you insert one, you draw a rectangle on the sheet somewhere, and you need to lock 2 corners of that rectangle. So if you want it to have the bottom fixed in position and it grows height according to how many rows it needs, you would lock the bottom 2 corners. Or if it's near the top of your sheet, you would lock the top 2 corners so it grows downwards by whatever number of rows it needs. You don't normally lock the width. The width is fixed. The width is what counts when you're defining it. You don't usually lock the height because that would mess things up. It's free to grow however many lines it wants, but the width is fixed. And again, make sure the delete during prototype change is ticked. So just to quickly show you that. So here we go. We've got 2 bills of materials on here. We've got this one's the lot list, and we've got the parts list here. If I double click on that one, you can see they've locked the bottom 2 corners because it can grow upwards. And here's the page of templates. These are the ones provided. I've got a couple that I've made myself. And you could use any one of those. Oh dear. You can use any one of those templates if you want. If you wanted to customize things, we can go into the help. Don't need that, go away. I'm going to the help, and again I just search for BOM templates. How to customize a BOM on drawing template. So go to that. It tells you how they all work. It's a fairly simple file. They're mostly based on AutoCAD groups, but they have this BOM list field, create list field. That's each part of it. So they're just simple drawings, really. They're not too difficult. And in some ways, they're more powerful than the external BOMs. You can do your own sums and things in there. Okay. So that's your bills of materials. So I've got quite a few parts we're talking about here. But those are the visible bits. You can play with them, you can move them around, you can edit them as you wish. There are some other bits that are not so apparent that are still important to set right in your prototype. Chief among those is the dimension styles. So all the dimensions, although we don't use AutoCAD dimensions, the advanced steel dimensions are still drawn based on the dimension style rules of how the geometry should look. So you need to set your dimension styles up correctly. Enter the dim style command, and you'll find among the list there's 3 with AS as the prefix. So those are the 3 that are used. You can't rename them, you can't copy your own ones in called Joe Bloggs Style 1 or anything. It must be these 3. So edit, the main one is AS dim style 1. If you modify that, you can change it to what you want. And then again, there's text style. So if you want to change the font, you don't like Arial, which is usually what we've chosen, you could change this to use different fonts for different bits. So Dimensions I'm changing to use AS style, my borders uses standard, and I could use different fonts for each of those, whatever. I would say stick to commonly used fonts. Don't download a really weird custom one, because as soon as anyone else opens your drawing, they're not going to have that custom font. So if they try and open and print it, it's not going to look so good for them. Try and stick to ones that are pretty standard for Windows. You can probably tell what's fairly standard for Windows. If you've never consciously downloaded any of your own, everything you've got is standard. But they're the ones that show up in every single program going, really. So you've got Courier, Times Roman, Arial, Copper Plate, Gothic. There's lots of them, but they, the ones you see over and over again on everybody's computer, they're obviously the common ones. So try and stick to well-known fonts. That's the dimension styles, but there's more to that, and the text styles. You need to set your default print setup. It's really quite important that you do set up a proper default print settings, and these need to be set for a hard copy to physically come out of a printer. You will not be able to batch print to a physical printer unless you've correctly set up your default print settings in each file, each prototype. There is no shortcut to this, you have to do it in each prototype. And first of all, you go to the Page Setup Manager, which you can find by going to the Application button, that's the big A at the top left, then Print, click on the arrow, and then Page Setup. That will bring up this Page Setup Manager, and you create a new style or page setup, which brings up the normal plot dialog, and you can set up your preferred settings. So you have to choose whichever physical printer you've got. Obviously, Autodesk or Graitec can't do that for you because everybody's got different. I would also recommend you set it to plot a window and set the window to the corners of your title block rather than leave it on extents or layout, which might include some rubbish outside the title block now and then. Lock it to just the title block, the border area. Definitely tick center on the plot, and that will center. We've made allowance for the margins, but that will center the print inside the printable area on the piece of paper. But again, every printer has slightly different printable area because they all have slightly different margins. So don't lock it to 1:1 thinking it's going to come up perfect. That'll probably cut a slither off the side of your sheet or something. So always say fit to paper. And instead of being 1:1, you can see in this case it's 1 to 1.053. Well, I think that's pretty much close enough. Or 1 to 0.997 or something. Nobody's going to say that difference, but it makes sure you always get all the edges of your borders and everything on the drawing sheet. And the colours on the screen represent the thickness on the bit of paper. But the system that tells AutoCAD what thickness to use on the piece of paper is the pen style. So make sure you choose Advanced Steel CTB as your plot style table or your pen styles at the top right of the plot dialog. Otherwise, you'll get the wrong lines and the wrong thicknesses. Once you've set it up, you must make sure you select it in the Page Setup Manager and click Set Current. So it's the one saying current there. And then that will be the default setting. So when you do a batch print from Document Manager, you don't have to change the print settings or the plot, choose a plot or anything like that. You just choose the files, add to batch plot, go. And then if you want the PDF, you do choose the files, add to batch plot, choose a plotter, PDF, go. And it will use all the rest of the settings correctly anyway. If you don't set those up properly, you could get messy or poor batch printing. There's a couple of other things that might crop up. Define the drawing layout. How do you make sure your views come up in the middle of the usable area on your drawing? Well, this command is a special advanced deal command. It's on the output ribbon, Document Manager panel. It's at the bottom there, document, define drawing layout. It brings up this dialog box. Normally, I would say for a single detail, I would say arrange in the center, but I wouldn't trust it to find the center on its own. It can do, but I would say click on the detail button. Instead of saying automatic or use the center of the frame, because you've filled up some of the area with the title block and so on. So the actual center of the usable area won't be the center of the frame. So I would always say define interactively, click on the pick button, and I would physically find the center of the usable area. I usually do that using the middle of 2 points. So if I get the help out of the way. So if I was going to do that on this sheet, I would say output, define drawing layout, So what he says arrange in the center, but I'll go to detail, define point interactively, pick the point. Now I know I want to go between the top of the revision table there and the corner of the border, but now I've got this extra margin down the left. I want to stop here. So I will say shift right click mid between 2 points, and then I will go from the corner of the revision block to the corner of my border usable bit there, and it's found different coordinates, and that'll be somewhere in the center here. That's the usable, not over there or not down here or not up there. It finds the center of the usable area for you. Then in here I would say, if you're doing a multi-sheets, not a lot of us use multi-sheets, but if you like multi-sheets where you've got lots of parts or assemblies on one sheet, this position is measuring from the bottom left of the corner, 0, 0, to the bottom left of the first view. So if you had a big value, might put the view over here. And then you're telling it whether to go in columns or rows. So it either goes 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, whether it's going top down or left to right, so 1, 2, 3, whatever. So you combine these two to decide which layout it goes in to fill up the sheet. And make sure this page format is filled in correctly. You may find on the out of the box prototypes, the A1 drawings don't say A1 in the file names, they just say brackets, because that's actually blank on the A1 assemblies. Oops, I should say A1 in there. So say in there, whatever you say in there is used in the file name of the drawing. So that's just saying what I've just told you. You can have a reserved area. I don't have a lot of notes in my border, and having said well, if you look at the standard one again, we've said the center of the usable area is up here now, so it's not likely to come down into this bit. But if I had quite a big chunky title block and quite a small title block, but you had a lot of notes in the top left corner or something in your border, then you don't want it to go over those either. You want it to ignore that area and keep that area clean. So if I wanted to keep that area clean, I could reserve that area. I could create a reserved area saying don't use this space, and it will find a way to fit around that space. And all that is, it's another block, and it's called Advanced Steel Reserved Area. It must be a rectangle. I'd probably just literally draw a rectangle and use that as my block. As long as you call it Advanced Steel Reserved Area, then Advanced Steel, when it's creating the drawing, knows that's there. It automatically avoids that area. When it's looking for the best fit, best scale, or whatever, it will ignore that area so that it doesn't put half your detail or your dimensions all over that view, those notes. So overall, you can convert the default drawing border, something like this, my A3 assembly, and I'm converting it into this, which is a little bit different. Let's look at some key features I've done there. So the most obvious thing, I've got a different border. Just made it look a bit prettier. And I put little dividers in and whatever. I've moved the notes to the top and I've put them into the border, so they're now part of the border block instead of being freestanding text and lines. At the top right, I've put in some weld notes about who welded it, when they did it, and who checked it. Those are attributes, so at any time on the drawing I can just double click on the border and fill in those names without having to create new text or anything. That's the border. I've also obviously got a different title block. I've got a completely different logo in there, naturally. I've included the approval status. I said I'd come back to that later. One of the tokens you can use is the approval status. So in Document Manager, you should be aware that you can pick the approval status on the right, select some drawings. On the right, it says not set. Change that to approved, rejected, revised. You can add your own entries in that using the Object Property Editor. So I've got for manufacturer showing here. So whatever you choose as the status in the bottom right, or not bottom right, on the right hand side of Document Manager, you can include that in your title block. It automatically gets written in if you put approval status as one of the tokens. I've moved the revision table. I've changed it to 3 lines. I've only got one BOM. I took away the lot list and I've resized it to fit the available space. Also, the dimension styles, you'll see I've changed the arrowheads and I've changed them to a nice font or a different font. Looks more hand-drawn. So you can make quite a different look. Finally, you come to project-specific prototypes. How do you do that? You're a freelancer and you have jobs for 3 or 4 different repeat customers, and they like their own borders. They'll want it with their logos in and so on. So you want to be able to use different blank sheets depending on which project you're working on. You don't have to keep changing the master files. That's the critical thing. Leave those master ones alone. They'll be the ones with your company names on. But all you need to do is basically copy the prototypes folder for each new version you want. So here you can see I've got 3 clients, and inside I've made a folder for each of 3 clients. Inside there I've got a copy of the prototypes folder. Then in that copy I edit the prototypes to whatever I need to please that customer, putting their logos on, different shape title blocks and borders, positions and all sorts. And then when I want to actually use those project title blocks for one of my projects, I come to my project folder. So whenever you make a drawing, a model, you end up with a folder with the same name as the model, don't you? That's how it stores all the related documents like details and bombs and so on. So in that folder with the same name as the model is the one we call the project folder. Copy that client-specific prototypes folder into your project folder, like so, and it will automatically, you don't need to change any settings in the system. It will use these prototypes it finds in the project folder in preference if it can find them automatically. If it can't find them, it will go back to the masters. I've explained all that on a blog. I said the blogs have lots of useful information. This is one bit of how to do it. Quite a long time ago I put that one up, but it is there on the blog page and there's a link to it. Let's have a look at that then before we go to the questions. So that's just scribbling. I'll show you one I've made earlier. So here's one I played about with earlier on, the one I used as an example. So I've got this border, like so. And I've got the title block over here with a different logo, different pieces and bits and pieces in there, and that's a different layout. So what I've done, let's close these before I mess anything up. Here's an old model, and let's create a few drawings. So let's have a check document manager, see what we've got. Wake up. Okay, let's delete everything I've got. So I've got no drawings. Let's just choose a couple of parts, and I'll make my assembly drawings. If I go to document manager, have a look, you can see these have come up on the standard prototypes. So standard prototypes, nothing happened yet. So I'll delete them. I'll go to disk and go to my folder where I've been doing this work. And here's my project prototypes folder. And then I've got client one, and I've got my prototypes folder there. I've only put the one in, but I've got my set of client-specific prototypes in there. So I copy that folder, copy, and I go to my project folder, which is the model's called July 1. So here's the project folder, and I put in there, paste in that prototypes folder. Having done that, I can then create those 3 drawings again. Still using the advance, that doesn't make any difference. Okay. Here we go. You can see it's using my new border my new title block. Been filled in for me. Got this extra bit, the building name. It's been filled in for me. It's no issue status yet. Come back to that in a second. Got the different dimension style, different dots there instead of arrows and so on. And if I pick those three, and on the right here I choose an approval status, so I'm going to say for inquiry only, which is a status I've added in myself, and then it updates those drawings so immediately you can see in the title block is written in for inquiry only. So that's quite nice. I really like having that in there. It's a shame it's not in the standard ones out of the box. And again, it's got all the font and everything sorted out. So project-specific prototypes, how to change any of the prototypes, and so on. Okay, let's have a look at your questions then. See, one or two have raised their hand. Okay, somebody's made a comment that if you're using an image, you can use paste special to paste an image into your title block. I'll take your word for it, Dave. I still prefer using plain AutoCAD elements because there's still a risk on printing that it sometimes comes out of the black rectangle. Probably not so much as it used to, but when you're printing black and white, it can be a bit ambiguous. Even if it's grayscale, which shade is black, which shade is white, because it usually draws a line somewhere between 60% is black, 40% is white, something like that. Anybody got any other questions? No one else has got their hands up or asked anything. Give you another moment or so. No, doesn't look like it. Okay, so I'll assume you're all happy with what we've shown you. Obviously, this will be recorded like all our other webinars and posted onto our content center in a few days' time, so you can always rewatch it there. Otherwise, if you have any questions, then send them through to Graytec. My address was on the first page there. And you can see what you're doing. It's still showing there's a hand up somewhere. Nope, definitely answered everyone. Okay, thanks very much for your attention, everybody. That concludes today's webinar.